Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Elevate the Soul. This is Mike, also known as the Soul Guide, and today I have a very, very special guest, a beautiful soul who I had the honor to be interviewed by and telling my story. That was months and months back, and since then, I'm sure that both of us have ascended even way more with our consciousness. She does amazing things, also dedicates her life and time to share light. My friend Betty, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that you're going to share so much light with people. And like I always said, even if one soul out of all of you who've been watching was affected, was able to smile, was able to stand on its feet, metaphorically, and move on or change or shift, we've done our part and even more. It equals to a trillion souls. You have to understand, because we're all connected, it doesn't matter. We just need to affect one. And so, Betty, again, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself, and then we're going
Thank
to speak a little bit, share light.
yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited for this new project of yours, and I'm so grateful to be part of conscious space with other people. So my name's Betty Guadagno. I'm a grateful person in recovery. I'm a divine spiritual being living a temporary human experience, and I had a near-death like experience in March of 2019. And my life completely transformed 180 degrees. My story before my spiritual experience was I was a drug addict, I was a prostitute, I was homeless, I was impoverished. My life was darkness, depravity, sadness, grief, lack, loss. And then I had this really transformative experience. And, like slowly but surely, my life transformed pretty rapidly into ascent, and now I devote my life to service. I have a job in the recovery field. I assist other people through their addiction healing process, and I have a private coaching business, like a spiritual coaching business, and I also work for the International Association for Near Death Studies, and I host their podcast on their YouTube channel as well. So that's like a little bit about me.
Wow. I have to say something. In the beginning, when you spoke about the past and how you transformed, every day I learn more and more that maybe we don't even transform. It's who we are
Yeah.
facing it. Like, think about it. We were assigned with that mission, going there into that battlefield where other souls would not be able to even attempt to go through these experiences and emerge through them and prove that through these experiences, while other people unfortunately give up to those energies, and in the end of the day it's the battle of ego and soul. But we are, to begin with, already transformed, and we kind of like shedding out
Yeah.
all these negativity to show who we truly are, because I don't want us to think that we become that. Like,
Hmm.
it's an opposite process. We are that. We're covered
Yes.
with what you call the darkness, and it's truly that. It's darkness. If you And sometimes people, and I'm sure you too, when you're divine, when you live a divine experience, and I always tell to people, I'm a soul that's having a temporary body experience. And every day I try to make it less and less important. This life is not only temporary, but it's so fragile too.
Yeah.
Nobody even promises you your long years. Nobody promises us tomorrow. Like, it's and this shows the urgency that we have to wake up to who we truly are and do it and live like a soul. Because when you live like a soul, you don't even see your life as temporarily, or you know what I mean. Like, you just do what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. And I want to ask you, so with your story, I don't know how much you want to go into detail with
Go ahead.
yeah, with what happened, because it's very important to understand the beginning and to understand your soul contract. Why were you assigned all these twists? Because and I'm going to share it later, I also have a personal past that it's a little different, but it's just as dark. It's to a point when I felt like I couldn't hit rock bottom. I mean, there was no rock bottom. I was just descending, and I couldn't see, like, you don't see the end of it, and until you just look up and realize, when it's not against me, it's for me. Like, something here is
Yeah.
telling me something else. So take us back. Take us
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to
I
what?
just want to say I love that reframing of it. It's not that it's I became who I actually am. And the process of remembering and the process of undoing was totally grief ridden for me because I was letting go of this personality that I had spent my whole life creating. Even though it wasn't true and it didn't serve me and it didn't feel good, it was all that I ever knew. And so to have to step into this new role of being like a divine spirit here on earth, it was really it was a challenge for me. It took me a long time to get used to the idea. I mean, like I really hung on to that old personality for as long as I could until Source was like, no more. Like we are done with this. But I will let me paint a little bit of a picture of my backstory. And I will just preface it by saying, trigger warning, it's a lot. And also, in my spiritual experience, I was taken through my pre birth planning. So I have seen all of the reasons why. And my story sounds like, just a life of victimhood, but in reality, it was a life that was preordained and plotted out for specific reasons. But yeah, I grew up in a really dysfunctional, chaotic home. My whole family is this perpetual cycle of addiction and poverty, sexual trauma. It's been that way for generations and generations. And I've come here to begin to heal that generational line. And my parents were both active addicts. And, in childhood, we were always stealing groceries, stealing electricity, getting evicted from apartments. We had no foundation. It was just very an unstable family unit. My parents, they were both really immersed in their own addiction. And in 2007, they made a decision to end their suffering, end their addiction, and they committed suicide with one another. I was 23 when that happened, and my sister was 18, and we found them. And they left these really brief notes. They were written on kitchen notepads. They didn't explain anything, but they didn't have to because, I understood what was going on with them because I was dealing with my own addiction and just like the pain of being tethered to drugs, the pain of withdrawal, the pain of poverty. They didn't even know that there was another way. And in that moment, my addiction became my parent. Like God was never a part of our picture. My family is a family of drug addicts. God doesn't really fit into that. And I used this as a reason to resent God or hide from God, because I thought, like, what kind of God would let these kind of things happen to me? And I always felt so victimized by the world, by my circumstance, by other people. And in the moment of my parents' suicide, I decided that I would never be a victim again and that I would be the perpetrator in people's lives because those were the only two options. It was abuser and abusee, and that was it in my scope of reality. And so that's what I did. I went through the rest of my life abusing people in any way that I possibly could, sexually, physically, emotionally. My addiction became my parent. It became my whole personality. Like I'm covered in tattoos of like liquor bottles and packs of cigarettes. Like this was my whole life. And then I ended up overdosing in 2019 on March 23rd, actually, which is the beginning of the season of Aries, which is the symbol of rebirth. And that's exactly what happened to me. It was a complete and utter rebirth. And in my spiritual experience, my father's voice, well, my divine masculine voice is the voice that guided me through my experience. And then it started to transform into every masculine energy that I've ever encountered in my life. And then the beginning of my experience, I started to have a life review. That's what it felt like. I was beginning to feel every emotion on earth. And I was only feeling the lack emotions because I was experiencing what I had gone through in life. So, like I said, I had been the abuser. So I was feeling it as me as the abuser and then the person that I was abusing. And it was static. It was spiky. It felt so intense. And I thought that I would never leave these feelings. So it felt like hell, like what I imagined hell to feel like. I also felt my parents' suicide, not only from my perspective as a grieving daughter, but also from their perspective. And it felt like I was drowning in an ocean of anguish. And I was like, this is it. I'm stuck in hell. I died and I'm stuck in hell. And then I heard these masculine voices. They started to guide me towards the light. And they just kept saying, you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You are worthy of all the love in the universe. And I followed those voices and I found myself, it felt like I landed on the deck of a spaceship. And there was thousands of other souls around me. And there was this commander in the center. And the commander was like gearing us all up for this mission to Earth. And everybody's like screaming and hollering. And like you could just feel all of their energy, like so lit up, you know, and everybody's so excited for this mission. And so I'm perceiving a bunch of different scenes all at the same time because everything is happening in the exact same moment. So then my awareness shifts to another scene and I find myself in front of this table of beings. And they don't tell me who they are, but I didn't have to ask because they were most certainly people in charge. And that was like the vibe, and that was it. And they had this huge book and they were thumbing through it. And this is all in my mind's eye. There's no actual like physical sight there, but they're thumbing through the book and they're like, oh, nice to see you. You're not meant to stay. Get ready to go back. And I'm like looking around me. I'm like, you guys aren't talking to me, right? Because like, I don't know where I am, but it feels groovy and I am staying. I was like, it's much better than where I just was. And they were like, no, you still have a lot to do. You still have to go back and complete the mission. And I was like, I am definitely not going back. And then I start to realize like where I am and what's happening. And I just remember saying to them, you guys do not actually tell us what Earth is like. And there's no way that I will be returning. Like you did not prepare me for what I just came from. And then they another scene started to manifest and they began to take me through the details of my pre-birth plan. So there was this man who guided me through what looked a lot like a grocery store. And in the aisles of the grocery store, they were lined with these big, huge cereal boxes, and every cereal box had a life experience on it. And I had this big empty grocery cart. And so I start pushing through the aisles and I was like, well, if I'm going to Earth, we're going to Earth. Let's do it. And I start grabbing every cereal box that I could get my figurative hands on. And I'm grabbing like really dense experiences because I signed up for a mission to transmute negative energy. So molestation, incest, rape, the double suicide of my parents, picking my parents, the family line that I would be born into. And then there were things in the cart that I hadn't gotten to yet in my life, like overcoming, recovery, spiritual awakening, being an author, being a speaker. But none of those things had happened in my life yet, so they didn't resonate. And I'm taken through these really intricate details. And every time that I pick a box off the shelf, there's like an orb of light behind it, waiting to come into contract with me to be the partner in that experience. And the one that sticks out really vividly for me is the man who molested me as a small child. When I picked this life experience and we came into contract with one another, there was reasons why. And one of the main reasons was that in a previous life or a parallel life, because everything's happening at the exact same moment, I had been his abuser in that same way. I had been his sexual abuser. So in this lifetime, we were going to balance out that energy with each other. And, my human cannot understand how experiencing sexual trauma with another person can evolve me as a soul or is a life experience that I want to have. But I have deep-seated faith today that my soul knows what's going on. I don't have to worry about it. Like I can just trust and believe that everything is happening, not only for my highest good, but for the highest good for all. And so, yeah, I'm taking through all these details and I'm like, I go back to the table of beings and I'm like, oh my goodness, thank you so much for all this information. I feel so much lighter. It felt like 2 tons of bondage had been released from my spirit, because things had no longer happened to me. They actually happened for me because I am the divine co-creator of my experience. I'm not a victim of the world I see. And I thanked them for this information, and then I said, I really am so happy to know all of this, but I definitely will still not be returning. It's like, it's great to have all this info, cool story. I'm going to watch the show from up here. Like, I'm not going back. And they explained to me that this was not a punishment coming back. This was the completion of something that I had signed up for. And I had signed up for a specific mission. And no matter what, I was going to have to complete it. And so if I didn't want to go back into my body, I would be reborn into a baby. And so they showed me everything about this small child, this little baby. They showed me her, and she was beautiful, and she was going to have to take my grocery cart on top of all of the things that were already part of her DNA because of the family line that she was going to be born into. And so she had even deeper levels of societal adversity than I had already experienced. And I thought, damn, if these are my only two options, going back into this body or starting from zero, I guess I'll just go back into her, but I told them, I said, listen, she is beyond repair. I said, she's glitched. She needs way too much healing. And there's no way that this can be accomplished. But if these are really my only options, I guess I'll go back into her. And I found myself sort of sifting back into my awareness, and the beings told me that the first half of my life was boot camp, and the second part of my life will be carrying out the mission, and it will not be nearly as challenging. I will have kindred connections, I will have spirit guides, I will have a team that assists me, and to trust them. And I just remember saying, I do not trust you. And I sifted back into my awareness. And that is my spiritual experience that happened to me. And it took me, I just wrote the whole thing off as drug induced psychosis. All I knew was that I took a bunch of drugs and then I thought I was talking to God, And so this was not part of my picture. I was a militant atheist. I had long philosophical rants about how there was nothing more. And to be shown that there was, I was so pissed that I was wrong. I was really, really upset. And I just kept living my life the way that I had always lived it. I just thought, wow, that was crazy. I'll never be that high ever again. And I kept using drugs, and I kept manipulating, and I kept stealing, and I kept lying and cheating. And then, yeah, the divine stepped in this really loud way. And my world got super, super tiny and tight. Like it was like I was being birthed. Like I was in this little tiny canal that I could only go in one direction. And it was the direction of recovery, of spiritual awareness, of reprogramming. And yeah, maybe I'll pause there and see if you got any thoughts.
Look, the people, if you watch some of my videos, but the people that I do sessions with will tell you that not only I say the same things or think the same things or tell them or know the same things, but I even use this very same terminologies that you do. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. You really cannot translate it to somebody who hasn't experienced it. But I'll tell you something. I remember that in the past we were thinking about even doing the session, and I don't know what even happened since then. But I know exactly what happened to you. I know exactly the scene that you were talking about. I know exactly the grocery store. I know exactly because when you were talking about your parents, like something just fell behind me, and like I don't know if you heard it. It was just like, and I felt it. I felt like I'm feeling it now. But you and many others that I encounter with when I do sessions, like people message me, and it's like we don't even know why we message you. Like it's not, nothing is like they watch the interview here, they hear an inside it. These souls, especially we come and when you said that we're living in the same time, that's why there's no past life or future
Right.
life. But only in this physical body we will obey the rules of time, and the soul has to obey that too. But the soul lives everywhere and always. So there's other dimensions than the soul is living. That's why we call it our higher selves. Like we download from ourselves. Walk-ins are our version, a walking soul, which I know that you are as well, because all that stuff is like, well, we're gonna take her back to be a baby and have to go through this, or just give her the knowledge, give her the consciousness, the right consciousness. Now, let me go back to what you call as bad past. I think that you were blessed with your past.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
when you live as a soul, nothing is negative. Like nothing that happened, nothing that played out is like, oh, it happened to me and I overcame it. No, 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 no. It's not even about that. You came from an angelic realm. You have a human soul, Betty, but you were mingling with angels. You're hanging out with angels. These are the beings you were talking about. You were sent here for assignments, okay? And to be able to come here and to face everything that you had to face, including not only losing your parents, not only losing your parents, but losing them to a tragic way. Not only one of them, both of them. So, and then everything that happened after, and all these roles that you had to play to be the one on the receiving end or to be the one giving. Because when I tell people, how do you test the soul? You can never test the soul in its purest form because the soul knows everything and it's everywhere. Do you know what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
tell a light, hey, you're not a light, there's darkness. No, just enough, a little bit of light to overcome any darkness. We know it from this physical world.
Yeah.
So to test the soul, you got to bring it into a physical body and limit it from its powers. When I say powers, consciousness, from the knowledge that nothing will really happen, that it's all a test. And the harder the trials, the higher the level of that soul of consciousness, the more the light. So why am I saying this? I'm honored speaking to you. Yeah, I had to go through a lot myself, and I was an atheist too. And to me, I was like, you crazy. Like I would watch this and laugh back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bad boy. I have tattoos. You know what I mean? Like I'm never ashamed. Now I take honor because I know my past was that beautiful beginning of the spiritual transformation. It's part of the soul contract. I also right now, Betty, I just react to life instead of taking action. It's all about reaction. I tell people, take the passenger seat, enjoy the ride,
Yeah.
instead of being the driver and take a sharp right and sharp left and get lost. And that's the journey of the ego, the journey that's solely affected by our actions and choices. We want to be good, we'll be good and amazing. We want to be rich, we can work hard and have anything of this physical life. This is the illusion. We are on drugs right now. But the visions that you saw, that's your true self. That's the big picture. That's the infinite. That's the bliss. That's what I felt. And you came here to do so much, first of all for your own self, because I told you, how do you test the soul? You really put it in this, only in this realm, only in this physical body. When there is time, when there is pain, when there's illnesses, when there's jealousy, when there's abuse, all these things that we might see negative, the body sees them negative, but your soul passed the test, and it was a transformation, just like birth. And it is like child's birth. What's a child's birth? It's a change to a new state of consciousness, a rebirth. Even though the baby's there 9 months, but no, it's one day old. It's a
Mm-hmm.
new consciousness. You know, I always tell people, a mother when she's in labor, and of course I'm not a mother, but I've experienced it from hands-on witness 4 times. But a mother is going through a lot of pain, even before the days of epidural, all the pain relief stuff. It's tremendous pain, I believe. I know, but yet it doesn't drive the mom crazy. She knows why the pains are there, what is the purpose, and what's coming after. It's a pain that's going to, in the end, bring life to a new consciousness, to a new level of feeling, which is true. That's in the physical level. Same for the soul. Now, if
Yeah.
you take that labor pain and give it to a lady who's not pregnant, it will drive her insane.
Yeah.
She'll be on the floor crawling, going to every expert there is. Why do I have labor pain and I'm not even pregnant? Same thing. When we look at our actions, stuff that happens to us in life, and if it's not of our control, like your parents doing what they did to themselves, you didn't choose that. You didn't take action. It was enforced upon you. You had to surrender to that.
Right.
In order to evolve as a soul, we have to surrender and listen to the things that we really have nothing to do with as far as making them happen. If it's not our actions and choices and things happen to us, that's our soul journey. If I hurt a friend right now, that friend doesn't want to talk to me, I can't blame God. It's my action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I
You know,
mean?
I love what you said. I had a conversation with somebody recently about like, why do we come back over and over again? And exactly what you described about childbirth, right? Like this woman goes through immense pain, discomfort for the whole gestation period, and then actually giving labor, you know, like going through labor, giving birth, and still consciously does it again. They know how painful it is and like how much work it is, and they still do it because the reward is worth it to them. And I feel the same way about why we continue to sign up for challenging lives and experience this over and over again, because we know the reward of remembrance. To remember who I come here to forget so that I can remember. And it seems like, oh, why would anybody do that? Why wouldn't you just stay in remembrance? And for me, the contrast without the contrast in my own life that I have today, like I live every day in gratitude, even when moments come in and flood me, like my ego or, like my defects of character or the things that I'm in the process of healing and evolving from. I still, like I can still reflect and say, wow, like I have, it's amazing to remember source, to remember my true being, who I really am.
I'll tell you something. The what you said, if you mind, we're always going to have that ego as long as we are trapped in this physical body. We can be the most spiritual, but it's always going to be semi-balanced because we're gonna get sick, we're gonna feel bad, we're gonna lose somebody we love. Then it's we know we don't really, it's not really lost, but our ego, our need to be with them now, to hear their voice, to still have the physical attribute present, that's the part of the ego. These are just opposing, balancing energies. But with you, I want to tell you something. I don't know if somebody ever told you that. I think in this lifetime, Betty, in this soul contract, which for some reason I'm feeling involved in, it's really not about you. Because even you said you were the abuser. Like you seriously, you mentioned boot camp. Like, what do you do with forces soldiers? Like people that like real life special forces, like elite Delta team, like Green Beret. They go to enemy lines. They go to the most dangerous of missions. They go to missions that only trained and people that can be trusted to fulfill them go to. Like, they come, parachute in the middle of the night, do what they need to do, and nobody even knows about it. So you have to understand, when your life events went the where it was, it's really not about you. Even now that you are doing for people and helping people and doing this, and it's still not about you, because your soul already knows you really came here to work. And when people ask me, why are we still coming back? Listen, there is no limit to how much we can ascend as souls. If as people we can grow, I mean, even now, even trapped in this body, we can grow, we can change, we can go from drug addict abuser to people who spread light. And that's despite the physical limitations. Imagine how much we can grow as souls, how much higher we can get in consciousness. The feeling of bliss, nobody can describe it, and it doesn't do any justice with that, to bring it into our terms. But how do you grow? How do you? It's coming through this cycle. I call it the
Right.
Ferris wheel. You got to come to this world, different culture, different language, different story. Everybody got their own what they call demons, their own dirty laundry. But I think that the approach to that is what's going to help us go through this. If I'm not afraid of what's coming, if I understand, like the lady who's having labor, she understands those pains come because she's about to give birth. She's been waiting 9 months for that.
Yeah, yeah.
She saw that moment coming ahead of time. But somebody who doesn't have it will always be like, I'm confused. Why are these things happening to me? I can't connect to my soul. You don't tap into your soul. A lot of people recommend people to tap into their souls. No, consume your soul. Let your soul consume you again. Because what is the definition in English of tapping? It's touching something and letting go immediately. I'm tapping
Mm,
out. Like a tap water. It's like drip, drip. I don't want that. I don't. When do we tap to our soul? When we are feeling completely high from happiness, or heaven forbid, from sad events that are
yeah.
happening to us, or if we're really excited, or we're really in love. Butterflies, like we tap, but then we let go. We have our moments. I try to tell people it's nice to know you have a soul, but you have to let your soul confuse you. You can tap back to reality, like when you pay your bills, when you eat, when you go to
Yeah.
sleep, you tap to that, but you live like you call yourself a divine, like this is living a divine life, is to know that you are a soul and a soul only. And this body is only a costume that's supposed to help you either interact with the collective or work on healing yourself. And it goes on and on and on. We can't look at this world from birth to physical death. I don't even like to use the word death. It's the death of the body, of the physical body.
Right.
The soul lives.
I love, I love what you're saying, obviously. And for me when I stopped seeing like earth as a punishment is really when my life transformed. And that took vigilant work. I have to like stay steadfast in that, because I can get wrapped up in an old narrative in a second. Like all those old narratives are just like these streams inside my mind, like waiting to pull me under. So I stay like really steadfast in spiritual disciplines, which that's not even like the proper word for it. But like today I'm not a victim of the world I see. I study A Course in Miracles. It's a reprogramming that really helped me. I practice the 12 steps in a 12-step fellowship. And that's like a beautiful spiritual program. It really, truly is. And, like I surround myself with spiritual community. For me, like finding the members of my soul tribe has been the coolest part of the human experience, being in awareness, like magnetizing to each other and going like, oh yeah, I know that you were on that spaceship deck with me. I know that we jumped together. I know that we signed up to find each other. And just seeing every moment in life as an opportunity to connect with those people. Like I don't know where they're going to come from. They're going to come out of left field. Like who knows, And so I can make it like a game like that. I can find joy in little things. And I'm not saying that I do that every second of the day. Of course, like my humanness creeps in. But like moments like this, like where I get to connect with somebody who speaks my language, and I get to learn from and grow with and evolve with, is just like, this is what it is. This is the feeling that I came here to experience, And it, when I woke up in eternity, it was like my whole life was a dream. I woke up and like I kind of shook it off, and I was like, whoa, that was crazy. My parents committed suicide. Weird. And that was the only thing that I could grab out of 35 years of life. I mean, like, so for me, moving forward in life, I'm not held in bondage from my past. Number one, because I know that none of this is actually real. I know what is real, and this is not it. This is a dream. It's an illusion. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? Like I'm here for it, whatever that means, for however long. I'm here for it. But I know that none of it's real. So I can be my most authentic self. I can take all those dirty, wet blankets that have been covering my light my entire life. I could just throw them off. I can find the tools that help me remove them. Sometimes it's other people that help me remove them. Sometimes it's different spiritual texts. It's different practices. And I can begin to remove those. And I can be my most authentic self. I can tell this very contrasted story about myself without any fear of judgment, because I know that none of this is real. Why would I not be my most authentic self? Like none of it's real. And I carry that with me, and it doesn't mean that I dismiss the world around me, but I don't have to be attached to it at all.
Exactly. Well, with me, I got to a point when, when these energies cannot mess with my mind anymore, with my consciousness, with my knowledge, like nothing can bring me down. You can't bring me down. Okay. Because just my soul does not even agree with this terminology anymore. Like I don't think like I used to. So my body, my physical body is being attacked. And this is how I grow. This is why I learn other lessons. And I just had a very complicated back surgery just about 2.5 weeks ago. And it's a second surgery in 1 year of fusion, like metals, and like a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain. But that allowed me to even be more isolated. And when I'm just with myself, I can so focus on my soul journey, and I just give everything in my life a spiritual interpretation. Like I walk outside, like if the sun is aligned this way, if I hear a bird chirping, like everything is just stories, whispers to my soul. My soul is constantly leading the way. And I think living life like that opens up a portal for like miracles that are happening to you. Like my life is like I manifest with my mind alone. People just go meditation, just trying to get one with their soul and be relaxed and everything. I meditate as I speak, as I walk, as I shop, as I constantly thinking how to do things spiritually. Because I tell you, not only we had to fight our own demons and win and spiritually awaken, but there's also the collective awakening that's going on right now. A lot of people are awakening. There is a shift. And a lot of people asking me, why is that spiritual awakening going on? Why there's a lot of people, it's like you call it, it's a cleanse of souls. Every soul, just like you have professions in this world, you have pilots, you have construction workers, you have cooks, you have lawyers, you have people with different passions. Souls also come from different levels of consciousness. They come from different, they bring with them different things. That's why I can relate to you it's an angelic realm. It's a realm that, like you said, we are sent here on missions. We almost are told what to do. It's definitely not our first time here. It's I can remember, like, I sometimes have wisdom, soul wisdom, that goes back to like before the Stone Age. Like, it's almost like I know how this world goes. Like, nothing excites me. Do you know what I mean? One way or another. And I think that because of the collective awakening going on right now, because there's major events that this world is going to experience, just like we have our own little personal dramas and big events that affect us personally as a collective. In order to affect everybody as a collective, you have to have something global. I mean, look what's going on in the world right now, like big, huge earthquakes, wars here, flooding. Like, it's crazy. Like, just because it doesn't hit our backyard, it doesn't mean people don't go through like chaotic times, and it's just increasing. And I think that people like us will be there and truly be able to save people spiritually. Like, we won't have to use weapons. Like, these won't mean anything. Like, we won't have nothing in our physical attributes will be able to assist what's coming. But I think just us and our light and our consciousness and what we do now is really preparing us to really assist. And I can't tell exactly in what. I do have visions in my head, but
Mhm.
I know that people are waking up and they're almost like regrouping, and it all starts like this with conversations with,
Yep.
but people are regrouping. Souls are, especially
Yeah.
when people can resonate, and I resonated with everything you said. It's almost, it came out, and I'm like, I don't even want to know what to say to it. I can say I agree, I agree, I agree, all that, but it's like it's exactly what I said, and it's good to know that people experience that. But we also have to understand that we keep on growing, we keep awakening. Sooner, you need to be teaching, not learning. Like, your soul came here with so much that you need to, let's put it that way, you need to do more major things than what you're doing, and that's what I've been feeling.
Yeah,
um
yeah. I'm
no.
on the path. I feel you. And in my spiritual experience, the download was very loud and clear that we are in the midst of the great awakening. And I'm talking about a person who had never heard any of these words before. I didn't know what a chakra was. I didn't know what spiritual awakening was. I definitely had never heard of the great awakening. And that was the download, that we are in the midst of the great awakening. We are transforming levels of consciousness, and that's what we're all here for. And then when I came back from my experience and through divine synchronicities and signs, that information that's already out in the collective started to find its way to me. And so it was confirmation. And I know that something is happening on a global scale, because if I got woken up, everybody is going to get woken up. I mean, like, you could not have taken a more asleep, unaware person. And and I hope that it's a process that's slow and steady, and not like how mine was, like a bucket of spiritual bricks being thrown at your face to wake you up like suddenly. But I really do feel that that shift is taking place, and I know that it's taking place because it's taking place within me. And if everything is a reflection of myself, then it's happening. And yeah, like I see my path like opening up more and more. And those old thought patterns come in, like, why are you trying to be so big? You're supposed to be small and insignificant, and don't forget. And like, those are the voices that I'm glad that I have spiritual community, because my spiritual community assists me in holding that big narrative for myself and for the world and for my, yeah, like everything,
Because
everything.
it's your individual, we all have our own unique individual spiritual journey, and the collective in our lives, the characters in our life are like, they're like our audience.
Yep.
That you, and we are their audience in their spiritual journey. Like, we all have, it's amazing, it's like we all are parts or co-stars in somebody else's movie. But when it comes to our movie, we are a superstar, we are the writer, we write the scenes, we direct it. It's like when people ask me about this, like, yes, I know we're a collective. So we always, instead of focusing on our journey, we always like paying attention to other people's journeys, and then distract us from ours. But we have to understand how to benefit from the collective to our own journey, and how we can benefit in theirs. Like you said, there's always going to be a receiver, right? And somebody who's delivering. And what I wanted to say is that, it's so beautiful. You mentioned something, because when I had my walking story, um, I felt exactly that. Like, and again, I I didn't have just quite the what they call tragedies in this consciousness, but I had gone through a lot of tests. I felt like my soul is being almost tortured,
Mm.
and the awakening didn't happen right away. I mean, even the awakening part was just another crisis, and I felt like my body was thrown from one side of the world to the other. But when I finally woke up, I felt exactly that, the download, that divine light. I call it the umbilical cord. It's like an invisible umbilical cord made out of light to just give us the awareness. And I truly believe that you yourself is a walking soul. I truly believe that when you came back, it's not like when near death experience people, they're just like, they almost cross it, they feel it, and then they come back to their body so they can have awareness that they're a soul and everything. But you came back with groceries, you came back with cereal boxes,
Well,
you know, like
when
that.
you came on the Ions podcast, I mean, it was the same thing. I wanted to interrupt you like every 5 seconds, like, oh my God, yes, 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 because it is the same language. It's like we read the same textbook, um, and we were trained by the same like commander. But you said, and I really resonate with this, that it's not necessarily like a new soul walked in. It's a higher fractal of myself integrated into place. And when I first came back, well, once I started when I first came back, after a couple of months, I went into a long-term rehab. And that's where I integrated my experience and I learned how to be a human without using drugs to cope. And I started to heal all of my underlying wounds. And I couldn't get past a couple of things. Like new things had manifested to try to sedate me and keep me from, like accomplishing what it is that I'm here to accomplish. And and then I found information about walk-in souls and it gave me so much relief. I said, okay, this is why my body cannot handle what's happening because I'm integrating a new energy into myself. And now it makes sense. And just having that little tiny piece of knowledge, it transformed everything for me. And like I said, I don't think that like my soul swapped out. I think that a higher aspect, and because of the law of oneness, like there is no such thing as separate souls, like everything is one. But this higher aspect of myself did come in. I mean, like I'm a gluten-free vegan and I only drink water now. Like that alone, I'm like, okay, there's something different going on. Like that was not my life before. I used to eat like
Yeah,
little Debbie like cupcakes. That was like my only meal on Coca-Cola. And now
yeah.
my body like it needs different things to maintain this high frequency. And that's not everybody's story. Not everybody needs that, but everything in my life transformed 180 degrees. Every cell in my body
And
absolutely
it is.
expanded.
I have to tell you something, about the walk-ins, because, like I said, even since the interview that I did with Irons with you, I've learned so much, and I didn't even go and study about that. But it's not a different soul. Why do we need a different soul? Like if it's us, like that's why we keep our memories, because you. But here's the thing that people need to understand: because we live, our light is unlimited. You can't measure a soul. You can't take it into a container and say that's your capacity. That's it. So I'm going to put you in the human body and that's it. That's where you at. No, 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 no. When we feel higher self, is not something that we look up to the ceiling and see. We truly feeling our higher self. We're feeling us somewhere else, inner self as well. It's not really in our guts, but it's also in. It's like you can call it past life, future life, whatever you want to call it, but it's a fragment of your, it's more of your light, and the light is consist of good, bliss, love, consciousness, knowledge, all the things that gives us goosebumps, all the things that we love, all the positivity. Just take it into one and put it in there. This is what we're made out of. And especially when I said consciousness is knowledge of the divine, knowledge that you are soul, not knowledge in math or English, or divine knowledge, meaning that you are a soul that's having a body experience and not a body that maybe or maybe not has a soul. And people ask me, but how can it be? Like you live here in this experience, you have your soul in your body and you limit it. I said, I'll give you an example. What are twin flames? Twin flames are one soul that's split into two bodies. And then they unite. It's not two different souls uniting. It's supposed to be one soul that's split. So we actually can be shattered. fragments. That's even the collective. In a way, if you put every one of us together into this divine light, aka God, aka whatever you want to call it, all rivers lead to the sea. It's all a matter of terminology. I don't like terminologies. Once I understand in my soul what people are talking about, when people tell me God, don't describe me God. I know what God
Mm,
is in me. Okay, it's like it's part of me. Just give me signs. That's why I call myself the soul guides. I don't tell people their story for them. I don't try to tamper with anything. I'm a spiritual road sign. You stop here in your soul journey and be like, right, left, it's this. Why? Because and you're my spiritual road sign. So, I exchange light with people. It's a give and take.
yeah.
You feel each other's gaps
Yep.
and gaps of ego, of course. So with you, definitely a walk-in. People ask me, do I have to have a near-death experience to have a walk-in? I said, no. You can blink your eyes and a walk-in come in.
Yeah.
Not everybody. It's all up to your journey. I mean, everybody's dream is different. Everybody's feeling is different. It's when we can't compare. Oh, this guy's experience was like that. Mine wasn't, so it doesn't mean it's the same. Hey, you, you know, and I'm giving you one analogy, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
In the physical body, as people, we are how many people in the world? A little over 4 billion, right?
8 billion.
8 billion now. Oh, wow. I'm behind. Sorry. Show me two people that have the same fingerprint pattern out of
Right.
these 8 billion people. Not a single person will share his or her fingerprint pattern with somebody else. Same for the DNA structure. How beautiful it is to see that everybody's physical structure is different. So, what do you think in a spiritual way? Everybody's journey is so different. Some people can have an NDE and see flowers, some people can see ascended masters. By the way, with walk-ins, you can also have ascended masters. I don't want to say possess you, but give you a lot of knowledge and you come with them. So, that's a walk-in soul that had guides, spirit guides. It's like people that just pretty much teachers. Or your higher self. You've been in this world before. You have the knowledge. You know better than being addicted. You just needed some. You needed to go through this to wake up. It has a cooking period. Has to have it. Like
Yeah.
a butterfly, like a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. It has to go through this cocoon. Like a baby in a womb, just stand still. It's not stuck. It's a
Yeah.
stand still, and then you emerge. That's the rebirth.
Right.
And I think you're a walking soul, and I think you still have a lot more to do.
I will say this about so the pre-birth planning, like these are my major plot points in my life. I signed up for certain plot points. And I can exercise free will in quotations because like is it? But it is. I
Mhm.
can exercise free will in my human here on earth by what I do in between those plot points. My plot points are not linear because nothing is. They can go in all different kinds of twists and turns. So for me, I could have come into my spiritual awareness and spiritual awakening much at a much different point in my life. But I kept exercising my free will and I kept digging that to rock bottom, digging, digging, digging. I just kept going further and further down because I didn't know that I could stop digging. And then by the time that I did actually get to the end timeline, that's what they said to me. They said like this is your end timeline to get this. So we're gonna help you because like obviously you're not gonna get it on your own. And for me there was a trampoline waiting at the bottom of rock bottom when I finally,
Mhm.
but I had to really really dig to get down there.
Spring, the
But I
spring
didn't have to
stretch.
dig that far. I could have stopped at any moment and started to come on to the next plot point. But again, living in unawareness, like I just thought that the human experience was about suffering and sadness. I didn't realize that there's anything else. And now that I have that information, yeah, it's not about teaching or preaching or proselytizing. I'm just here to be me. Just by being my most authentic self, I am raising the frequency of of everything and everyone. And so, yeah, like I love working with other people and I'm just there to like be a guide. Like hardly. I'm just there to hold space. Like everybody has all the answers inside of them. I am not privy to like some sort of, like
Exactly.
knowledge
Your
that not everybody
presence is
else
like a
has.
street light. You're like a lamp when
Yeah,
somebody's trying to read. Think
right.
about it. Somebody's trying to read, and you're going to be the lamp.
Yeah,
Because
I love
without that light, without somebody enlighten them, they won't even open the book. You know
yeah.
what I mean? So that's what I feel I do. People, I tell people, hey, I'm putting a mirror in front of you. It's like, so what is the answer to my thing? It's like, you asking me your answer?
Right.
So I'm giving tools about how to figure out how to find out your own answer. And I think it's beautiful. And this is how I live my life. And I always say, like, the reason we do have time in this physical body, past, present, future, is because what's time doing? It's moving. You know, we're growing, we're evolving, we're aging. We are in this moving thing. All we need to do, it's moving for us. We have to, instead of taking actions, we have to practice our reactions. We have to just be ourselves and live. Whatever comes, give it a spiritual interpretation. Everything in your life has a spiritual interpretation. When you try to think like you own everything, like you know, like you think you're in control, something will come, and not your money will help you, not your connections, not your friends, not your job. You know, some people can sit and have dinner, and it happens every day as we speak, and then the head of the family just gets a severe stroke, and then the whole happy family, their jobs, their lives, everything changes, and now the whole consciousness is into hospitals and treatments. Like, people don't know. All we have to do is react to situations that happen, and this is how we grow in consciousness and help people. You know, I dedicated my life to it. I sit and I try to write insights. I'm like, you know what? I'm shooting arrows, a lot of arrows of light. Hopefully, I can hit somebody, one person. You know, I'm not trying to do it to be popular or to have these things. I don't even know how to operate these things. My wife does it all. I just sit down and speak. I don't write it down. I don't look at who. Like, that's what people are like. You don't answer comments. I don't read them. I say what I have to say. You read them. Enjoy the comments. I mean, I'm just doing. It's the bare minimum, but it's the maximum for me, because some people write me and be like, you know what? I just had a really bad day. Thank you. Like, that little one line, it spoke to me. Some people who speak to me and cry, and I know I can feel that I talk to their souls. You know, I'm below the sea level with them, and that's what's important, and they need it, and I need it. You know, and not to sound selfish, but we need it for ourselves. This is part of our what we grow alone in our own experience, but we grow also with how we react or act with the collective, you know.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful.
well, Betty, I think that we got to the time where our souls got to an agreement, and I had such a beautiful conversation with you. I mean, I really know and even hope that the viewers will be able to resonate with this level of conversation, because we both describe our personal experiences, which is very, very similar and parallel. And some of them will be like, you know, when do I get to feel that we all have it in us? We all have it. And again, I have to tell you, you don't have to go through something like that to have it, because everybody got their own soul contract. It's all, you know what I mean? Like, you might just need to one time help somebody in your life, and it's such a significant way, and you've done your part. You don't know. You just have to be part of it, connect to that soul of yours. Don't just tap into your soul, let your soul consume you every day, every night. Have unconditional happiness towards life. When you know you're a soul, you have unconditional love, you have unconditional knowledge, unconditional happiness, okay? Because nothing can break it, nothing can tamper with that. The soul does not like negativity, it does not know it. It does not know how to coexist with that. So leave those things aside and look at the bigger picture. Because when you look at the bigger picture and you zoom out, everything looks so small. Just like when we fly from an airplane and we're like, is this our world? These are the cars, these are the bridges. It's nothing. I'm above all that. So do it as well spiritually, and you'll be able to see miracles in your life. So Betty, if you have like one last thing to say to kind of sum things up, and before we say
I
goodbye.
could literally talk to you for hours, but I was just trying to be mindful of like brevity for an episode of a podcast. But yeah, thank you so much for this space. Thank you for creating this conscious space. And yeah, I really feel like this is how we carry out our mission. You know, like we chose to be born in this generation at this time with the technology that we have for a specific reason, I think. And I do believe that it's to spread light to people that we can't actually physically be around, and to share information. We all have these really intricate puzzle pieces. And when we get to come together in communion, we get to share those pieces with each other. We close loops for each other. We open loops for each other. And it's just this beautiful interwoven sort of tapestry that we're creating. And I'm really grateful for you. And thanks for
We're
your willingness.
manifesting and creating shockwaves in the spiritual world, and this is the point. Thank you so very much. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm sending you a lot of light, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.